Yeah, and I'm pretty sure when we go live, I mean, who really watches the first 2 minutes, anyways, right? It's just
Yeah, right. Although somebody's going to see this and they're going to think like that we don't know that we're
we don't
live.
know our audio's
Look,
on.
now's the time for all the racist comments that are going to come out when we both run for president, which
That
apparently
was.
doesn't fucking matter anymore these days.
Oh, by the way, we've been live for 20 seconds.
Oh, son of a bitch! No, get rid of it. No, it's a gin and tonic. It's funny. I haven't drank gin and tonics in like 20 years, no joke. And a buddy of mine came out from LA, and we were out on the boat one day, and he brought me. He's a gin guy, so he brought me a bottle of Aviation Gin, which is Ryan Reynolds' company.
Right, right.
It sells for like $23 a bottle, and it's really fucking good gin. So ever since he came out a couple months ago, I've been drinking gin and tonics again. So go figure.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I think that's like so cool.
and
Well,
no, it hasn't been a hard day, other than the fact that I've been ripping the deck off of my roof by hand. So,
and I find it really interesting how movie people now are like, I've got enough money now. I'm just going to start my own booze.
Oh my god! Well, dude, it's like it's the age-old product. Booze and sex sell themselves. You don't need to advertise.
Right.
Clooney and what's his name?
Yeah, they're doing tequila, right?
They already sold it.
Yeah.
Casamigos came to market, and if I'm not correct, I'm sorry, if I'm not mistaken, I'm really correct. If I'm not mistaken, that they reached 1 million cases sold in record time in the booze industry, and then now, obviously, Dwayne Johnson does Terramana tequila,
right,
and Ryan Reynolds. So yeah, it's like, I mean, it's a freaking no-brainer. I mean, it's fucking booze.
But I think with COVID keeping everybody in, and that whole thing definitely kind of lends to it as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. It's like I've been watching a lot of Hulu and enjoying. I don't know. It's like him and the guy from Always Sunny in Philadelphia him and Ryan Reynolds bought a soccer team.
Oh yeah, that's right. I heard about that.
And it's a documentary now. And
yeah,
it's nutters. It's nutters.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
And I love the honesty of it. I love the transparency. I love the angst and the drama. And
I imagine, that it's kind of like us trying to figure out, that passive income stream. I imagine for an actor, it's like, I'll start this company, I'll find some people to run it, and I'll put my name on it and put out a good product and just let it do its thing, rather than, not that, as an actor, I wouldn't complain getting paid $20 million to shoot a movie for 6 months. But again, you're trading time for money, So I imagine for them that it's just kind of that passive income that they desperately need. I was really worried for Ryan Reynolds, actually, after the smash hit of Deadpool, that he was not doing well. So I'm glad he's got his chin.
It's so true. I mean, because I'm sure he's starving.
Yeah. Oh my God! Speaking of, total segue. But speaking of, hey, 3 miles down, how are you? We are actually aware that we are live. We're just trying something new. So, last thing, and then we should probably hit the
last thing. I'm thinking that last thing just happened. Oh my god, that's awesome! I really hope everyone got to skip the those stupid fucking Twitch commercials.
I can't believe you cut me off to start the actual show, you bastard.
Yo, man. Hey, listen. Here on the west side of Waterdeep, we don't tolerate that shit.
Welcome to episode 34 of what are we? Lawfully Chaotic.
and our keep us in order's not here today.
Yes,
so.
Sharon. Yeah, it's going to be a wild night because Sharon's not here to keep us in order.
To reel us in.
Yeah, she had things going on. Now she had other plans, so she couldn't make it tonight. But she will be back
coming up this weekend, so I think she's prepping for her birthday trip.
No ref tonight.
Exactly. Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Dorito Bison, thank you for following us. By the way, I did see that. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. But no, we don't have a ref tonight, so it's going to be wacky wild show. Oh, hey, what's up, Andrew? Okay, awesome.
Oh my God, I'm in love with that handle.
Dorito Bison.
That's awesome.
I like that.
It's been stolen. I've stolen it.
I like it.
I'm gonna make a narrative player character called Dorito Bison.
Jordan won't be here. He's on his honeymoon. Oh, well, that's a shitty excuse. If he was really a fan, he would be here and he would put his honeymoon on hold.
What, he doesn't have a mobile phone?
Doesn't have a mobile phone. Halo 1, wow, impressive.
Gamer tags since Halo 1, that's awesome. I got you beat. One cell is my gamer tag since EverQuest.
Well, you're old as fuck.
I am old as fuck.
Although I shouldn't be saying that because I'm only like a year less old as fuck. Actually, no, am I older than you?
I don't know. Humanity's been fucking for a long time.
How else
do you
explain? This is already off the rails. Anyway,
how do you explain 8 billion people?
I fucking love it. Thank you, brother.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. All right. This is why we brought Sharon on because already. Anyway, welcome, episode 34. Tonight we are going to be talking about this is a timeless problem that DMs and players have had since pretty much day one is scheduling conflicts. When do we play? I can't play, and you schedule a game and then something comes up, somebody has to drop out. Obviously, life happens, but especially in today's D&D world, where there is a lot of remote play, there's a lot more playing going on. There are a lot more time zones. It is, I would venture to say, a more common problem. So we'll be talking about that tonight. Before we do, Jason, do you have any announcements?
No, so I've decided that capping myself at 9 tables is the appropriate cap. I've got 4 tables that are concluding their campaign. So I'm having 4 campaign conclusions over the next 2 to 4 weeks.
Wow.
3 of which have already agreed to reboot into new campaigns.
Nice.
The 4th one I think is still a conversation.
Okay.
And we will be standing up a studio game for Tuesday nights. We've got 2 players so far. Callista and Ivar, who are my number one live players. Ivar looked at me and was like, okay, Tuesday night, buddy, let's go. And we are going to do the second Spark. We are going to do low fantasy, and it's going to be year 1 of Calamity. So it's going to be the very first year after Calamity. The Divine Gate.
So it's basically D&D. D&D means Walking Dead.
Yeah, well,
it's walking around like, what the fuck happened, man?
Well, it's the Divine Gate is sealed, magic is wild and shamanistic, and the natural world are beginning to take over.
That's very cool. So you're running a lot of games in Critical Role territory these days, it sounds like.
I like Exandria's World. I know a lot of people have complained that it's a bit Forgotten Realms-y, and I'm like, okay, well, I like Forgotten Realms too. I don't know what to tell you. So, it's...
Let me ask you a question.
Mm,
do people? And I'm actually asking. I don't know. Do people
yeah.
bag on Forgotten Realms like to the nth degree or something? What I love Forgotten
Well,
Realms.
you got to remember, Forgotten Realms is one of the few generational. Well, I would say World of Greyhawk and Forgotten Realms are the two most generational
Yeah.
playing environments. Like multiple generations have now, from from baby boomer to X Gen to to Zennial to Zoomy to all the different generations that are now playing in these worlds. Whereas Exandria is specific to a generation, like it's a generation
Oh, I totally
discovery.
understand that. I understand wanting to try something new, but I don't
I think the
understand the hate
mistake,
toward Forgotten
yeah,
Realms.
I think the mistake with Forgotten Realms is that there's too much lore. There's so much heavy lore in
Yeah.
Forgotten Realms. It doesn't quite feel like an open world anymore.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, I agree. And and that's a good point because I have this homebrew that I'm writing. Um, I don't have the time to develop an entire world right now. So I am building on top of Forgotten Realms, but that's a good point you bring up because really when it comes down to it, I'm just kind of using the map and I'm kind of
Yeah.
using Waterdeep, Baldur's
It's
Gate,
a fun structure. I love the structure of it. I
I
think
am
something
completely rewriting my mythos of deities and stuff like that.
Hey, I like Kryn.
I do
Like
too. I'm
Kryn.
looking forward to that, Gary.
I'm looking forward to Kryn coming back because I want to look at it through new, mature eyes. Like I want to
Yeah.
look at it from when I fell in love with it through the book series, and what it means to me now to make it as a playable world, and whether or not the
Mhm.
lore. Like for me, I'm going to play the lore post Takesis, post the whole genre of the book series. It's all going to be
Mhm.
post after it. So I'm going to take the world and everything else is going to be legendary. And then it's going to be a world that people just get to explore for the sake of it being a new world that Kryn should be.
Yeah.
So I do plan on hopefully standing up a couple campaigns when Kryn does come out, because I am looking forward to that for sure. I do think it's a very rich lore. It's a very rich culture. I've always really enjoyed the idea of the draconian race
Mhm.
and their back and forth with their dragon heritage. I've always found that to be super interesting.
Yeah, that too. I mean,
There's
I
that too.
just used
Yeah.
Waterdeep because I was lazy. But you're right. I love the idea of Waterdeep. I also use Baldur's Gate heavily. And I like the map. I like the map of the Sword Coast.
It's a fun map.
It is. Yeah.
I mean,
I like
let's face it. It's California in the year 12.
basically, yeah. Yeah. And we all know that I love California.
It's the well, to be fair, it's the West Coast in the year 12.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is. It is. What was I gonna say? Something about was it Dragonlance or
Could be.
I kind of want to, this is completely off topic. When
Because
has that
Barry
ever
Bot's not
happened?
here, so it makes sense.
I know.
We're probably going to go till midnight.
So snow tires. What do you think about Michelin versus Bridgestone? Because I'm really
back in my day, we used Bridgestones. We didn't use none of them Michelins.
Yeah, kind of. That's true. Yeah, I do the same thing. I kind of use it because it's there and it's already set up. And I make what adjustments I need. But no, I've had, as much as I'm loving, content development stuff lately and running the games and writing this homebrew, which I expect to publish at some point. I've said it before, I'm running a couple groups through this homebrew, and I have the overarching storyline. I found this on the web. But Jesus, fucking useless. When I have the overarching storyline, but I don't have each chapter and plot written out, and I'm utilizing them playing as a way to help me write it, which is really kind of cool. It's been working out really well, and it's informed a lot of my writing, very, very surprisingly. So I'm really enjoying it, but I don't know. I'm missing. I always come back. One of my favorite games is Torg. I always come back to that kind of, nexus of zeitgeists that it's just like it's everything thrown in. It's this this noir, this overall kind of noir feeling with fantasy and space lasers and the undead and the Cthulhu and all that shit thrown in there. I would really like to do a world based on that within the 5e rules. I'm gonna have to put that on.
Well, that was the whole point of my campaign I ran called The Descendants.
Oh my god!
When yeah, right. When we played The Descendants, it was a steampunk theme.
Wasn't that the alien ship crashing? That was oh fuck! What was the name of that?
Are you talking about Journey to Witch Mountain or whatever that was? The same philosophy theme?
No. The old school D&D module with the alien.
No, I know which. I can't think of the name right now, but I know which one he's talking about.
Not actually. I want to keep saying "Keep on the Borderlands," but it's not. It was something like Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. Was that it?
Yeah, I think that's the one it was.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that was it. Barrier Peaks. Thank you.
So with that in mind,
should we actually matter? Yeah, well, should we actually talk about our topic? So Sharon wrote us some notes, which is good.
Schedules and conflicts.
Yes.
She did a great job, and I actually shared them in Discord, hoping that it could be a tool and a way for people to refer to the material later on. But find the right group, keep it consistent, be flexible.
Yeah.
Right. So it's actually a good topic for me right now because we're in the it's just like a D&D group not to stay on schedule.
That's never happened to me before.
The fall season's rough. You've got Halloween, you've got Thanksgiving, you've got Christmas, you've got New Year's, you've got travel plans.
Fucked until January 2nd. And then January.
Kind of. I mean, you just got to be super flexible to Barry's point. I will start by saying I have advantages on the find the right group, right? I have my seniority in the game.
Yeah.
I'm a professional DM that people spend money to be in my game. So finding the right group for me has not been a significant challenge. But I would imagine for newer players and newer storytellers, it could be. And there's a couple things on here that she did. Like, I'll be honest with you, I do a lot of agile team development as my professional career. And I use this all the time, this trick all the time for what we call breadcrumbing to bring people back into conversation. Using SurveyMonkey is the boss, bro. You asshole. But yeah, like...
SurveyMonkey is a great, it's a great
startup tool and like legit. A great way to reach out to a potential group and on a daily basis, just kind of like.
So I don't think my issue is not so much finding the right group. We've talked about that before. I think it is. Well, I don't want to steer this away from that. If you're going that direction,
well, but to a certain, from a certain perspective, what she starts the list off with is it's best to start your first group off with close friends and similar schedules. And she's right. Like if you have a close group of friends or family and you all share a schedule that feels compatible, it's a good starting point. It really is a good starting point.
So let me throw this out there, and this is the reason that I suggested this to Sharon as a topic right now, and because I'd like your input, because I'm not actually sure how to deal with this. So I have my Wednesday game, which has been going on for like 2 years. We've been playing through the Dragon series, and I've been not drawing it out just for the sake of drawing it out, but I like realism. And there was, I think I mentioned this, there's like that 40-day journey between Baldur's Gate and Waterdeep, and we played almost every fucking day of that 40 days.
We were talking about the journey immersion.
Yeah. So so the game has been going on, and they've been really my players have been really, invested in it. We set up a second campaign for the odd time that one or two people can't play. One of the guys had a baby recently, so he said, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to do every week. I'll do every other week." So we set up an alternate campaign for the rest of the group for every other week, and it was going great. And just over the past few months, and I don't fault anybody. I'm not sour over it, but people have life shit going on, right? So one of the guys, like I said, he's got a newborn. One of the guys had some changes at work. Actually, two of the guys had some changes at work. So what I find myself in, and this is a really tight group, and we tried adding a person last year, and it went completely south to the point we had to kick him out and kill his character. Okay.
Right.
And we then added another new person maybe 9 months ago, and that has worked out fantastically. So he's now part of the group. But they're a super tight-knit group to the point that and I'll wrap this up because I know I'm rambling, but to the point that they bought the extra seat at one point just to keep their group together, coherent, without, somebody new. So over the past few months, it's really fallen apart. 3 of them are available like every week, and 3 of them are not. Okay. And I'm struggling with how do I keep, and I've had to skip weeks, and the 3 guys that are always available, it's really unfortunate for them because they don't get to play, but I can't play with 2 or even 3 people. So I'm struggling with how do I handle this and not hurt feelings? Do I say, screw it, this is done, and start a new campaign, but tell these other 3 guys you can't play in it because you can't commit the time? Or do you know what I mean? Where I'm going?
I know exactly where you're going.
So that was kind of the impetus for this whole topic, and I'd love to hear your opinion and chat's opinion on how to handle a specific problem like that, which is it's a fucking scheduling issue.
Well, I think both Dorito Bison and 3 Miles have good points. Dorito's point in regards to
Gary, we've tried that, and it's too unwieldy, especially remote, and they feel like it's a chore. And quite frankly, I don't want to run those characters because I got enough going on, and I don't want them to feel like they have to do that to keep the story going.
On this point, there's a difference between seasonality and holiday schedules. That's the challenge we run into, because as soon as you get out of the holiday schedule loop and to the point about it being winter for a lot of places where you're locked in, locked down, it's 8 feet of snow, there's no place to go, nothing to do. Winter presents a great opportunity to play some games, right?
Oh my God. In Chicago, like I said, from January 2nd through like end of April, wide open.
Yeah. So I think seasonality and holiday schedules are always going to be kind of like juxtaposed off of each other, because holidays you prioritize at the family level versus everything else. So you're always going to prioritize family.
Like I said, I don't fault anybody for it. I'm struggling with how to accommodate my 3 players who are literally available every week and yet not make the other 3 feel like I'm done with you because you can't commit and you can't play in my new campaign.
And that's the hard thing to be self-reflective about your own skills versus the player's skills, right? Because one of the things that 3 Mile brings up, the majority of my successes have been with stranger tables, people who are complete strangers coming into the game. And really, once they're in that collaborative reliance on each other, they feel guilty missing a session.
Well,
they feel guilty.
This whole group, except for 2 of the guys who are brothers, this whole group were strangers when we started. And for a long time, 2 years is a pretty good run for a group of strangers that met, to start something up.
But what if they improve?
Gary, exactly. I don't want to.
What if they're improving at the same time, right? What if suddenly they're committing well? What if suddenly they're doing the things like like they genuinely are practicing an empathic approach to the fact that, oh fuck, I fucked up and all the other players probably hate me, but I want to give it another go. As long as you support that energy and support the idea of giving them another chance, I think you got to have that contract. You've got to pull that player aside, to Barry's point about talking to your players.
Yeah, and I think I
got to overcome that. And, you know, and you got to go to that player, one-on-one, and say, look, if you want to keep playing, tell me. If you don't, tell me. It's okay. You're not hurting anyone's feelings. In fact, I feel like I'm limiting your private life because you don't feel like you can resolve this. And if you have that open throughput conversation with someone, it will resolve. It has to resolve.
Yeah, and I think I've come to the realization that I need to do that now. And that's the thing. They do have legit reasons. It's not just, I don't fucking feel like it. I mean, I know for a fact it's family and it's work. So I can't fault them for that.
I have a player in 2 of my games. He gave me a heads up 2 weeks ahead of time about his Jewish holiday schedule. And I created a whole little side arc for him so that while he was gone, he was off doing something that will get summarized later on. And it'll still fit into what the Worlds Apart team is doing. Because we were very transparent about the conversation and the expectations and the constant communication back and forth, there were no surprises. Everyone knew it was coming. We all, you know, supportive of him wanting to take the holidays off and be with his family. And he'll be back in a couple weeks. And
I was doing that for a long time. I was because to me, coherent
Dorito.
That's a really good point.
That's a good reference. Yeah,
really
that's a good reference.
Yeah. But I was doing that for a long time, Jace, of like side arcs or writing people out just for the sake of consistency of the story. Because I can't stand just saying, oh, so-and-so's not here tonight, so his character just isn't going to play. And it's gotten to that point because it's become so prevalent that I've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, so-and-so's not here, his character's not here. You know, we'll still level him up, but we're not going to play him. And I hate doing that because it to me, it lessens the impact of the storytelling. So that's kind of where.
And I get that, because when it becomes a consistent challenge that you're spending a lot of time mediating that challenge,
Gary,
absolutely.
That's not an excuse just because you have to go to Ukraine and stop a reactor from melting down. What the fuck kind of excuse is that?
A little subtext on that one, huh?
Yeah. Oops, I did it again. I blew your cover, Gary. I'm sorry. You're going to stop having the FBI call me for background checks.
I think when it comes to that particular challenge, it also can present opportunities of practicing the skill of simply telling someone, take your break, do what you got to do, and let's revisit this when you're ready to revisit it.
Yeah.
And keep it simple. Can you plug a laptop into nuclear power?
Yeah, Mr. Fusion. Didn't you see Back to the Future? Okay,
but this transcends us, but this transcends us into the next topic, right? Because you kind of touched on it. Keeping it consistent, right? Because the challenge you have.
I was just going to say, start running through Barry's notes again. Yeah.
Well, Go ahead. And you bring up a really good point. Can you maintain immersion? Can you maintain consistency? Can you maintain the cadence of the game with someone who's showing up once every 6 weeks? I don't think you can.
No,
yeah, you can't. And that honest assessment of that challenge should be, let's talk about why this isn't going to work. And make sure that you understand that we're not upset because it doesn't work. We're just wanting to protect the game from a standpoint that we have other players that want to move on. They want to move on. And in order to support that, we got to remain immersive and we got to remain consistent.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, I think I finally, and that's why I wanted to talk about this, on the show, because I think I've finally come to that point where it's like, okay, we're going to have to do something about this. But I could see a couple of them. I could see 2 out of the 3 who cannot make it anymore saying, well, I still do want to play. So if you start a new campaign, can I be involved on a limited basis? And then I'm running through the scenarios in my head, and I'm kind of like, well, you haven't been able to commit.
But see, once again, that touches on the third point, the flexibility.
Yes.
And, between online play, one-shots, and you know what? Barry is so good at research. The West Marches is such a great way of practicing the idea of people just come and go at will. It's like this open sandbox world of play where every time you get together, if it's a new person, so be it. It's a new person. And maybe you play with those people.
And I'm not familiar with West Marches, but does that... I'm okay with a sandbox type environment, but if you're literally in the middle of an encounter and you've got to end for the night, and that person's not there the next week,
well, I mean, no matter what, that skill set's going to be applicable to any game you play. I think what West Marches allows you to do is that the party dynamic of people missing party-based consistencies, that's a lot easier to resolve. If you're if you're running a 1, 2, 3 part encounter, you may want to talk to me a little bit separately about how you shouldn't be running 9 hours of encounters. I mean, that's a little heavy. Maybe if you have 15 minutes left in the session, you tell everyone, hey, let's stop now, and when we meet next week, we'll start the encounter. There's a lot of little tools you can practice to like mitigate that probability, right? Those are the things that DMs have to learn over a period of time, both through regular play and adaptation modeling and all that stuff, to make sure that they're beginning to control some of the end game aspects of a session to mitigate the potential of someone missing. So it's a lot easier to transition into a session if 1 or 2 people are missing. And at some point, if you have enough people missing, you just simply say, okay, there's too many people missing. We're too deep in the arc. Let's all just plan on taking this as our break and coming back the following week ready to go.
Yeah.
Now, if that's an invitation, if that's an invitation for 3 of those players to go, well, fuck this. This is like the 3rd time. I'm out of here. That's a different conversation, right? I mean,
it is. And this is a very different, and this goes beyond like one guy missing for a week and then a different guy missing
or
3
one
weeks
person.
later. Or that's what I mean. One person. Yeah. I'm sorry. One person. I haven't done my DE&I training yet this week, so forgive me. One person. Let's just go this way. If one girl misses 1 week, okay, and then somebody misses like 3 weeks later, I have no problem with that. That I can handle, from a continuity standpoint and say, well, this person, little side arc, or there's a reason they're not there. But yeah, with this particular campaign, it's gotten to the point where I'm ready to just say, you know what, I think we're done. And I'm going to take these 3 players that are always available, and I'm going to start a new campaign. I'm going to find some new people. If you other 3 want to come in when you can, then you can come in as like an NPC or, a Feywild sprite who pops in and out or whatnot. So I think I'm answering my own question.
In this campaign that you're talking about, how many people regularly show up?
So I have 6 people. Right? 3 always show up unless one guy he works also for the government, and sometimes unless he's, for instance, like he was just in Korea, okay?
Right.
Obviously, I'm not going to expect him to play, even though he did fucking play one of the sessions from South Korea. Right. But that aside, when he's traveling, because it's not often, those 3 are basically available every single week. The other 3, one of them, who was one of my star players, he has played once in the past 9 months, and then the other 2 are very much like week to week, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And again, I don't fault anybody. Shit goes on, family, life, That's totally fine. I just feel bad because the 3 guys that always are available, I got to keep saying, we can't play this week. And they're like, oh, fuck.
I would say let them finish.
Exactly, Andrew. Yeah, especially when it's a paid game, I'm there to service them, okay? So that becomes, that throws another wrench in the works. If this is an unpaid game with friends or whatever, then it's easy to, it's a little bit easier to deal with it and call people out on it. But
I would say allowing the 3 players. I typically get consent from the other players that are regularly missing to allow me to use their characters as narrative player characters. And I use them in a very agnostic way to protect the integrity of the immersion. But I feel like your 3 players have earned the right to finish the campaign.
Gary,
I wouldn't take the avenue of martyrdom and just say, okay, let's just start something else because you 3 are always here. I would say give them the immersion, give them the amazing feeling of the opportunity to finish the campaign. And for all you know, it could end up being difficult. It could not. But
here's where I have to put on my paid game hat and say, I can't run a game for 3 people and take up an entire weeknight.
I do.
That's great. I mean, no, I'm serious. That's great. For me, it's a commitment, and I don't think that.
Well, and I get it, because when it's a far enough along campaign, filling those seats can be really hard, because anyone that you're going to grab may not feel very invested because there's been so much that's gone by. They're never going to feel like they can catch up.
And I don't think, to be honest, if I were to guess, I don't think it's about finishing this campaign with them. I think it's just about continuing to play with me as DM. So if I told them, look, we're restructuring, we're going to start something new, I don't think they would have any problem with that.
Where's my narcissistic alert thing I use when you say shit like that? Where did I put that button?
I mean, they told me you're the best DM ever, way better than that TTRPG guy, and we just want to keep playing with you, even if we play Chutes and Ladders. So no, seriously, I don't think, in all seriousness, I don't think with them that it is a matter of we want to finish this campaign. I think it's just wanting to continue playing every week.
I would at least offer the opportunity to do a short narrative of the time gap, let them level up, get them to that final encounter, and have fun with a final encounter. Like, make the conclusion of the effort fun for those that have given you the regular process of showing up, so that they can at least have the sense of conclusion, and then you can immediately reboot a new campaign and fill those seats.
That's actually not a bad idea. Basically, just like do shorten the off ramp.
I've done that on 4 campaigns, and it's fun. Yeah. It's a good way for me to conclude what's in my mind for something that I've built. It allows consensus with the team. It feels like there's a finish line that everyone got to. You have a fun little day of a really fun encounter of like upper tier skill sets that maybe they've never touched before. And at the end, you're like, okay, great. Let's go ahead and over the next couple of weeks, let's talk about the new game we want to play.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. I haven't thought about that. Okay, I want to get off the topic of my particular situation and just go back to, in general, how does a DM deal with scheduling, and what are some tricks and tips, and like you said, the sandbox model, or having somebody just jump in as kind of like an NPC guest, like is done on Critical Role, stuff like that. I think those are all really good ideas.
And I think if you're fortunate enough, TPK, build it around engines. I love that.
I like that idea best so far, actually.
Well, and to a certain degree, plug and play is a really good way of looking at this, right? Because the flexibility aspect, right? You may you may have a lot more fun running a monthly one shot to keep the group together.
Yeah.
And have a lot of fun with that. And maybe as everybody's schedules settle down the following year, you could try a short campaign. And what I've been learning, since we're on the flexibility standpoint, I think I've learned that a campaign can be too long. It's possible, depending on the table that you have, you may come to the realization, oh shit, a long campaign with this group might not work. I love that. I've always loved that option. You know, you're part of a guild.
Yeah.
And once a month we meet to play a one shot, and there's a whole immersive experience behind.
That's a great idea. And even, it doesn't even have to be a one shot. It could be, can you commit to 4 sessions, you know, and we'll do this.
Absolutely.
I like that. I like that a lot.
And I think this plays into the challenge we have with a lot of long-term campaigns being published in the social media space, right? Yeah. If you're a newer player and a newer DM and you're being overwhelmed and self-absorbed in all these games that have been running for like 2, 3, 4, and 5 years, you may have a notion of, okay, that's how all the games should be.
You know what? I just got a little spark in the furnace. It's just...
I didn't know that much depth of cold could spark anything.
It's interesting because it seems like everything is either, to your point, a very long campaign or book of one-shots.
Mm-hmm.
What if it was the idea where everybody's in this world, whether it's Forgotten Realms or Tal'Dorei or, you know, whatever, and, you know, to Andrew's point, a little bit of the guild stuff going on, where it's like, it doesn't have to be one-shots, but it could be a one-shot or a 2-session or 3 or 4-session story arcs that all affect the world, and that different people can jump in that way on these different arcs.
And it's interesting you mentioned that, because on Friday nights, one of the DMs on the Discord runs Driving Rain, and he's been running this for well over 2 years now.
It's kind of like the game D&D, the 40-year ongoing.
Yeah. And he's literally been running the same campaign now for 2 years. None of them are the original players.
Yeah.
If you show up, you play. If you don't show up, you don't play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So just that gives you that flexibility. So it's almost like it's kind of like, I'm getting the analogy of like the Marvel MCU going on, you know? You've got this universe and you've got all the key players, and they all appear in their own little stories. Sometimes there's crossover and whatnot, but it all affects what's going on.
It may be the one part of the MMO framework that works within the D&D anthology of play, right? Yeah. It's like, if you're a newer DM and a newer player and you're worried about finding a game to be in, and you're overwhelmed by the idea of,
thank you, Matt.
Yeah. You know, it really is, because if you're overwhelmed with the idea that you feel like you can't commit to a long campaign, then you're not even going to try.
Yeah. I may explore that. That sounds like a really cool idea to bridge the gap between 2-year campaign and one night one shot.
Well, the anthology I started for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Adventures in Rexentrim and Adventures in Nicodranus were meant to be summer campaigns.
Yeah.
They were 12 sessions.
Yeah.
And then they wrapped up. The Nicodranus one will wrap up next Wednesday. The Friday night wrapped up a week ago. They were so in love with their group, only one person dropped because he wants to go run his own campaign. He was like, Jason, this was so inspiring. I'm going to go run my own campaign if you don't mind. And I'm like, no, you go do you. I'm glad that inspired you to do that.
That's the beauty of it.
The remaining seats were like, okay, when's the next campaign? What are we doing? And because
And
they
that's
did
the
so well with the short-term
Yeah.
campaign, I'm okay with a 1-year campaign, being
Yeah,
propagated.
and I think that's the beauty of it. And even during a 1-year campaign, if people can't make it, you just slot out and do another, 1 to 3 episode, if you will. That still, but everything still affects the overall storyline. Another interesting dynamic that could add, and I don't actually know as a DM how that it would affect things, but everybody's always the same level, more or less. Another interesting dynamic that could add is all of a sudden you've got a group that maybe has 8, 9, 10th level characters, a couple 4th level characters, and maybe a 1st or 2nd level character. That could be really freaking interesting.
And you could also arrange it so that the milestones they hit will mean more to the lower level folks.
Yeah.
Versus the upper tiers, right? So if you're 4th level and everyone else is 8th level, a milestone for them could be two levels.
Exactly.
Right. And then one level for the others. So it could, you'll gradually pick up pace.
Yeah. Okay. I like this. Dibs, copyright TM. I'm going to work on this. Nobody else can have this idea. It is all mine. We can move on to the next topic. We solved this one. No, I'm just kidding.
So I do want to talk about, and I think that's the reason why he was picked to run the Age of Arcanum campaign, because the Age of Arcanum campaign was designed to be short. And I think what they were trying to show everybody is that don't build a 155 session campaign.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay to experiment with the shorter cadences.
And again, I'll go back to the MCU or the new Star Wars universe model. It's like you gotta, if Obi-Wan comes out and it's 8 episodes and it's done, but it still, falls under the.
I'm gonna go back to the keep it consistent bracket that Barry Bot wrote.
Okay.
There's a bullet here I think is very important when you start organizing around the challenges of meeting. Know your minimum number of players to work with. As a storyteller, as a DM, based on your junior, moderate to senior level of understanding the game, it is on us to know what that is.
Of course.
If 7 is overwhelming, then don't do 7. If 5 feels good, shoot for 5. If you enjoy doing 4, then do 4. It's all manageable.
Yeah.
But if you're running a game with a number of players that you feel like are not manageable for you, it's not going to be fun. It's going to feel like work. That's going to bleed out into how people are interpreting your energy and the energy you're putting in. And suddenly 3 of the 6 people stop showing up.
Yeah. Well, that's
so
okay. So, here's the question. The minimum that I feel comfortable with is. I was going to say, if I know from the start, I can run something with 3 people. I don't necessarily want.
Yeah. I would say I don't necessarily running 5, but if I only had 3 or 4 to start with, I'm fine with that. I get your point.
I think 4 to 6 is ideal. Is the sweet spot. I think 5 is ideal. 3 I can do. 2 would have to be a really curated story, but I wouldn't do that for a paid game. I'd have to think about 3 for a paid game for obvious reasons.
Well,
7 is starting to get unwieldy, and above that for anything other than a one shot it's just like combat rounds are too fucking long. People get bored. I don't necessarily have a break-even point, Gary. I'm not losing money. I'm still playing D&D.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm losing money. It's just how do I feel that night, and what is my, how committed am I in for setup and all the pre-work and prep work and and stuff like that.
And a note onto that, I'm very fortunate that I have a dedicated space.
That's huge.
Right. So because I have a dedicated space for me to work within,
that would completely change.
There's a lot more flexibility for me. So that might be something I would add to the the idea of running the game. If you ever feel like you can create a dedicated space, there is an advantage there.
Oh, if it's your only income, I would say, depending on what
5.
you're charging for a seat, 5.
Yeah, 5.
But you're right. The fact that I have to break down and set up every time I have
And
to
I don't
play,
have to do that. Yeah.
That's huge. I don't collect on cancellations or no shows. It's just, again, we're playing a game, and I do know that there's, although I've never really had. I've
had a player one time pay because she felt bad she couldn't show up.
I was just gonna say, if one of my players pays or can't show up last minute, they'll it's never been an issue. They usually say, I'm gonna pay anybody anyway, keep it, whatever.
And those are the players that you begin to realize deserve that little one-on-one time to help them keep pace.
Yeah,
because they're very empathetic towards the concern of the holistic nature of the group and the integrity of the group.
I mean, I've been really lucky. This group that I'm talking about, we've had a fantastic time, and everybody, even though they were all strangers, everybody gelled really, really quickly and plays really well together. And that's one of the reasons why I've been struggling trying to figure out how to deal with this specific situation. And again, I'm not sour over it. I mean, shit happens, life happens. I'm just trying to look out.
Twisted Duo.
Fuck you, man. You want to play?
Oh no, Barry's here. Okay, Barry's here.
Okay, so anyway,
bullet point number 5, paragraph 3, subsection 2.1, clearly states that if a group is an asshole group, you diminish that group. And
thank God. Oh, Barrybot, so far we have talked about snow tires and no, I'm just kidding. No, we have actually what they do. What you do, man? No, we've actually been on topic. Your notes have been fantastic, but I'm glad you could join us in chat.
Absolutely.
What happens? Yeah,
so true.
The adults. So yeah. I'm not gonna touch that one.
I have this image in my mind of two of us with walkers, and like in between the two of us is Barry Bot with one arm in between each of our arms, like making sure we get to mealtime. Just like
dude, you're not that fucking old, man. Jesus Christ.
Oh my God.
Who said the other day it was last show, or I don't know, somebody said bingo nights. Oh, Andrew, I think that was you. Bingo night's going to be replaced with D&D night.
I could see us doing that in the future.
My God, totally.
Right? That'd be so much fun. To the earlier question about the minimum size of a group, that sweet spot, I think if you want to know your minimum number of players, and you want to be able to feel like you can help everyone contribute and help everyone really get immersed into the game, 5 is always going to be the sweet spot. It just is. Carry your dice and pill caddies. That's so inappropriate.
Holy shit, that's another idea for a merch item. A fucking dice tray pill caddy, like Monday D20.
On Monday, I use this D20.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, I use this D8.
No, but I really
don't swallow the wrong one.
Especially not a D4. Holy shit. No, I really like the idea though of kind of the combination of the sandbox and the ongoing
West Marches thing has me rethinking a lot of my old school creativity I used to dabble with.
Yeah.
I really think a couple of my next games that are going to reboot are going to be West Marches. It's going to be just this open world that people just get to play in. There's not going to be an arc. There's not going to be any sense of fatality and
okay, that's a good point. Why can't there still be an arc?
the arc they're going to
it doesn't necessarily have to be like
no. So my
okay,
approach to the West Marches is that their complicity to the world, the way that they are being explicit to it and walking through that world, they may actually develop the arc themselves through interaction with the different communities and the different political factions and the different kingdoms that exist. Who's to say their choices eventually turn into an arc?
Totally. I love that. I still think that there could be. I'm gonna have to look into West Marches more because I'm not familiar.
And in her notes, she put the cannibalhalflinggaming.com, which I love that website. It's so much fun.
But I think there could still be this ongoing arc. Now, whether a particular group decides to pursue that arc doesn't mean that it can't be going on at a higher level, affecting what's going on in the world.
A clarification to the arc reference. It doesn't have to be the main arc. It could just be a arc. And let's say as they're in the open world sandbox and they decide to do something else other than pursue that arc.
Yeah.
Let that arc play out.
Oh, sure.
Suddenly there's an entire kingdom on fire because they didn't.
Okay, I take your meaning. Well, that's like that. That's like that side arc that I've talked about, where it basically created an entire chapter of my homebrew from this side arc of the Dragons campaign because somebody couldn't show up, and that was still back in the day where I was like, okay, I've got to maintain the consistency of the story, so you guys go do this. And like I said, I got this awesome chapter and cast of characters for my homebrew from that completely improvised side arc in an ongoing campaign.
Well, I mean,
it was fantastic.
I would say my Age of Empires group on Saturday, we've been running for almost a year and a half at this point, probably close to a year and 8 months. We had one particular time that one of the players just couldn't come in. It was near the beginning of the campaign during the first 5 or 6 sessions. I was like, well, this is a good opportunity to have a little side arc with the 4 players that rolled in because it allows the immersion to remain consistent. And with the fact that they missed it will not mean that they missed too much.
Yeah.
And the 4 players that showed up, it's going to feel very special to them because they realized that they made the choice to take on that opportunity, and what they got out of it was their own choice of making to get out of that opportunity.
That thank you, Gary. There's a link for West.
Yeah, that's one of them. The other one is cannibalhalflinggaming.com.
Okay.
That's another one. In fact, I'm going to put Barry's in there as well.
So you bring up an interesting point. The discussion so far, we've focused on how does a DM deal with scheduling issues, but pursuant to what we were talking about with the players, especially, in a 2-year campaign, obviously you're not going to be able to say, can you commit every week,
Right.
But if it's a 3, in this kind of MCU approach that we're talking about, I don't think it is too much to expect to approach 4 or 5 players and say, okay, can you commit to 3 or 4 weeks without fail so that we can finish this little story?
Well, I mean, I'll say at my pay-to-play table, and then I want to talk about what Dorito said about how do you reward the players that show up for the side arc versus the one that doesn't, right? So there's...
Oh, I missed that. That's what that comment was?
There's a conversation to be had around that.
That's a really good...
It's a good point.
It is a good point. And that can especially be valuable in, Andrew, in that kind of Adventurers Guild setup. If this model that we're talking about is, that your character can appear in different arcs, different groups and whatnot, and what you get equipment wise or XP wise in one group will transfer over to another group, then that has more, that has more value to that player.
So where were we?
Or that.
Yeah, that's fair. I would say
that's a good idea.
Yeah,
also.
that one I'm approaching more often than not. Like I like the idea. So there's two things here. Like when I meet with my zero session of pay to play players, I'm the very first thing I do is I establish the relationship of the ticket, the seat, and that expectation. That's the very first thing I do because I want to give them an out. If they didn't fully understand that's what that meant, I want them to have a safe way of saying, I didn't understand that. I can't commit to that. You know, thank you for taking the time to establish and reminding me that, you know, this is going to be every session and I should be aware that it's a commitment. Now, with that in mind, my pay to play tables are almost 98% when they show up. It's like those tables are almost always full. They almost always pre-register, prepay, and at the last minute, if they can't make it, I'll move their ticket to the next session. So it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I do the same, but there's a point at which it becomes, for me at least, there's a point at which it becomes actually less about being paid for that seat and more about the continuity of the story and disrupting it for other players.
Which goes back to Barry's point in the notes. Keep it consistent, right?
Yeah,
if you can't maintain consistency within the idea of immersion and present a consistent adventure and world for everyone to have that. And here's the thing. All of this revolves around the most important aspect of the game. Have fun, right? If you're not having fun, you need to feel like it's okay to say, then don't play, right?
Yeah.
If you're not having fun, don't play.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
okay.
It should never be like a chore. It's just, like I said, for me, the crux of the issue is for the players that are available and want to play, it's disrupting for them when other players can't.
Yes.
The game can't happen. That's
the
basic problem that I have with scheduling.
And here's the two things I'll say to that, because that's when you come back to the point up at the find the right group. You know, talk to your players. It's a hard skill, but it's a skill you got to learn. And at the same time, online play makes it very hard to make up excuses, because if you're traveling, right, and you know you're going to have downtime during your travels, online play is not that difficult.
I told you one of the guys called in. He did join a session from South Korea. It was like 9 a.m. when he played. Yeah. And another one of my players, another one who is literally available every week, fucking called in from his hospital bed when he was in the hospital once. Shit you not. So
well, I've got a player in Grain Lands that he went to a wedding, but he knew he was going to have some downtime, and he made the time.
Yeah.
He connected to the hotel Wi-Fi, and he had an experience. He played.
Yeah.
And people do that because they're having fun. They do that because it's important to them, because the people that they've met and the people that they've bonded with have become important to them.
Yeah.
And they don't, and once again, empathetic, right? They're feeling empathy, and they don't want the other players to suffer that absence.
Yep.
And they personally don't want to suffer that absence. And it, you know, to me, that's some of the greatest affirmation I could ever ask of anyone to give me. You went on a 3 or 4 day vacation. You recognized you had a 3-hour window to play. You set that time aside because how important it was to you to do that.
Yeah.
To me, that's all the affirmation I need. My ticket to play, that ticket price to play, allows me to maintain the studio. That's all that does.
Yeah.
You know, that allows me to maintain a dedicated space to offer up this amazing immersive experience.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point too. I mean, even just texting in, I do this, roll my dice. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we every now and then when a player in Discord is having a major tech issue, they open up their phone, they go into Discord, and they're like, you know, they're okay, I'm listening. but you're cutting in and out. But if this happens, do this, you know, and they're like,
Yeah.
you know, they're invested.
Yeah.
They're invested. And I think that, you know, to me, that's the ultimate goal that we're trying to get to, is that we're creating this immersive space. We're keeping in mind that we should be knowledgeable of the group that we're assembling and what that group means, whether it's family, friends, or strangers. What are we doing for consistency? You know, we should know our own limitations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Should I be aware of my limitations? With online play and with the idea of open sandbox and one-shots, there are a lot of unique opportunities that we can take to still say, okay, every 3 weeks we play, every 2 weeks we play. You know, oh, we're going to play for 3 weeks and then we're going to take 2 weeks off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, those things that are presented to the table that in that fashion in a collaborative space, everybody's going to be like, oh, well, this is empathetic. There's emotion attached to it. I'm having fun. Okay, cool. Let's do that. Or, okay,
Yeah.
no, let's not do that. So it begins to make sense. It really does.
Yeah. So basically, you know, to sum up, it comes down to communication, and expectations.
And it's the only skill we don't practice that well anymore, which is a
Yes.
whole nother subject matter. But we've gotten 7 minutes over, so I feel like we should definitely wrap it up.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining in chat. That was really helpful. Thank you, Barrybot, even though you couldn't be here tonight, for writing up the notes. It gave us something to talk about, so we didn't go completely off the rails. Wait, what did Andrew say on that? Do you think it's easier to get people to commit and stay committed on web-based adventures? That's an interesting question. It's a lot easier to commit to remote, but I think there's a lot more impetus to not miss in person.
I would say my response to that would be a little bit different. It's super convenient to miss in person because your reasons become more relevant to your own personal needs. When you're playing an online remote game, your ability to come up with those reasons become heavily mitigated. It's a lot harder to say, you know, well, this or that or the other. You know, your transparency becomes less relevant because a remote game, you don't have to drive.
Yeah.
You know, you turn on your PC, have your pajamas on, and have the experience. So there's a lot around that. That could be a subject matter upon itself.
Yes, it could be. All right, awesome. Well, anyway, let's wrap on a good note or a high note.
Hang out for the after video. If you haven't seen it yet, we're going to show you the RPG&Co intro video that we use. It's absolutely balls amazing. So if you're ever interested in hitting up RPG&Co about their graphic design work, their branding work, and anything you might need for anything you have as a side project or a professional project, it's fucking dope. You know what, Dorito? You win. You pass. You pass the test.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that very, very much.
Brian, where can we find you?
RPG&Co. Instagram's the easiest place to find me, but check out my link tree, rpgandco.com. Website is playrpgandco.com. Reach out. I always love to just chat and shoot the shit. Whether you need something or not. Just wanna chat.
You can find me over at TTRPG Academy in the Twitch space. I have all my socials there. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. On Instagram, I like to post pics of all of my campaign battle cam scenes to give everyone a little bit of flavor about the events that I'm running. We have a dedicated dedicated Discord of almost 400 people. So jump in there. If you ever want to just have a conversation about running the game or the experiences that I've had over the course of 40 years, just all you got to do is reach out to me. Seriously, I've had some of the most amazing 2-hour conversations with complete strangers about how to build games, set up games, create online environments and stuff like that, I am more than happy to have a conversation about that. Twitter is my space where I do a lot of promotion and a lot of, like when I build a map, I like to put it there to show people maps that I'm working on. But, we're out there. We exist. So you can come find us, come hang out with us. That'd be awesome. And with that, no D20s because no Barry. So be kind, stay safe, and play a game. It's good
Thanks
for your
for
mental
joining.
health. We'll see y'all. Bye.